You think you know parenting. After all, you've raised your own kids. You've wiped the tears, stayed up all night with fevers, navigated tantrums, scraped knees, teenage storms, and awkward silences. But nothing prepares you for the moment you see your children become parents. It's humbling, it's emotional, it's transformational. Because in their parenting, you see your own journey reflected, sometimes beautifully, sometimes painfully. And through their struggles and triumphs, you begin learning all over again. This is what I learned, watching my children raise kids.
Back when I was a young parent, parenting was more instinctual than intentional. We didn't have bookshelves full of parenting guides. No endless blogs, YouTube experts, or Instagram therapists. We just did what we thought was best. We relied on gut, on advice passed down by our own parents, even if it didn't always make sense. We survived with band-aids, firm voices, and prayers whispered into the night. But watching my kids raise their own, I felt like I'd entered another universe. They speak in new languages: attachment parenting, Montessori at home, co-regulation, positive discipline, and it made me feel, at first, like maybe I had done it wrong. They plan screen time, they measure sugar intake, they attend parenting workshops, they apologize to their kids. At first, I resisted. I thought, we turned out fine without all this. But slowly, I started to notice something. It wasn't about being right, it was about growing. And my children were growing into better versions of the parents I once was. I used to think patience meant keeping calm when your child was screaming, holding back the shout, taking a deep breath instead of slamming a door. But my children, they taught me patience redefined. They sit on the floor, they hold their child's tiny face and say, "I see you're upset. Let's breathe together." They ask questions. What are you feeling? How can I help you feel safe right now? This isn't weakness. This is strength dressed in softness. It's not that they don't get frustrated. Of course they do. Parenting is still exhausting. But instead of silencing emotions, they invite them in. They make space for their children's storms instead of trying to stop the rain. And you know what? It works. Their kids feel heard, not just managed. That was a lesson I wish I had learned sooner. I used to think patience meant keeping calm when your child was screaming, holding back the shout, taking a deep breath instead of slamming a door. But my children, they taught me patience redefined. They sit on the floor, they hold their child's tiny face and say, "I see you're upset. Let's breathe together." They ask questions. What are you feeling? How can I help you feel safe right now? This isn't weakness. This is strength dressed in softness. It's not that they don't get frustrated. Of course they do. Parenting is still exhausting. But instead of silencing emotions, they invite them in. They make space for their children's storms instead of trying to stop the rain. And you know what? It works. Their kids feel heard, not just managed. That was a lesson I wish I had learned sooner. But perhaps the hardest lesson of all was learning to step back, letting go of the urge to correct, to say, "That's not how I did it," to give advice they didn't ask for. You see, love sometimes disguises itself as control. And as a parent, it's hard to stop being the parent, especially when you see your children struggle. But they're not children anymore. They're adults. Parents. Making decisions with their own values, their own wisdom, their own hearts. There were moments I wanted to step in. Moments I wanted to say, "Don't do that," or "That's not going to work." But I learned to pause. To ask myself, is this about me? Or is this about them? Because part of loving your children is trusting the seeds you planted and letting them bloom in their own direction. Sometimes I sit quietly, watching them parent, and suddenly, I catch it. A phrase my daughter says that I used to say, the way my son soothes his baby with a hum that sounds just like the tune I used to sing. They don't even realize it, but I see it. I hear echoes of myself in their words, in their rhythms, in their love. It's surreal. Like watching history loop back in the softest way. It makes me emotional because I realize they were watching me even when I thought they weren't. And now, I'm watching them, not with critique, but with awe, because the love I gave them is being passed on, and that's the truest legacy we leave behind. When I was raising my children, life was busy. Bills, work, expectations. I don't think I truly understood the power of just being there. But now, I see my kids prioritize presence in a way I didn't. They put down their phones. They schedule time not just for events, but for connection. They sit beside their children when they cry, not to fix, but to be. That's powerful. I used to think providing meant giving them everything. Now I see being present is everything. Even as a grandparent, I've started showing up differently. Less fixing. More listening. Fewer instructions. More hugs. Being present is a gift they taught me how to give. There's a strange humility in becoming the older generation. You're no longer the center of the story. You're the roots now, not the flower. And with that comes grace. Grace to say, maybe I didn't do it perfectly. Grace to forgive yourself for the mistakes. Grace to admire your children without needing to prove you were better. This journey, watching them raise kids, it taught me how to grow again. Not upwards, like before, but inward. To soften, to surrender. To recognize that wisdom isn't just what you teach, it's also what you're willing to learn. Even when it comes from those you once rocked to sleep. And then there's the joy, the giggles that echo through my home again, the pitter-patter of feet on hardwood floors, bedtime stories told in new voices. Toys scattered across my living room, a mess I welcome with open arms. I get to love again, without the pressure, without the sleepless nights, just joy. I get to hold my grandchildren and feel the universe fold in on itself, because I once held their parents the same way. Full circle, soft and beautiful. They say being a grandparent is a second chance at love. I think it's a continuation. Love never stopped. It just changed forms. So what have I truly learned? That parenting never ends. It just shifts. That our children teach us as much as we ever taught them. That legacy isn't a name or a story. It's love passed down, gesture by gesture, word by word. That the greatest gift isn't raising perfect kids. It's watching your children raise theirs with kindness, with care, and with courage. And in those moments, you realize you did something right. You realize you were enough. And now, so are they.